I remember vividly the day I returned to live with my family in Tennessee. In 1817, the Bell Farm was as peaceful as I remembered it from my childhood. The wheat fields stretching as far as the eye could see, the wind rustling through the old oak trees, a place where my soul had felt safe. But this time back, something was wrong. From the first night, I sensed something different. I lay in my old room, everything the same, the creaky wooden bed, the thick wool blanket, the flickering oil lamp in the corner. But there was something in the air, heavy, damp, like an invisible breath that was silently clinging to me. I tried to fall asleep, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt as if someone was standing at the end of the bed, watching me. I sat up, looked around. Nothing, just darkness and the chirping of insects outside the window. When I told my mother the next morning, she just smiled and said I was probably tired from the long trip. But my father was different. He looked at me with a strange look, then slowly asked, "Did you hear someone whispering?" I was stunned. He said that recently the whole family had been hearing knocks on the door in the middle of the night, scratching on the wall like animal claws, but when we went outside, there was no one. We all thought it might be a wild animal, until my mother heard a voice right next to her ear. "I'm getting closer." From that moment on, I knew the place I used to call home was no longer safe. The second night, I decided to leave the oil lamp burning all night. I wasn't a person who was easily haunted, but the feeling of being watched from the previous day was still fresh in my heart. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined eyes staring at me from the darkness. Not human eyes, but something ancient, evil, incomprehensible. At around midnight, I was awakened by a knocking sound. Knock, knock, knock. 3 sounds, clear, slow, came from just behind the headboard wall. I jumped up, my heart pounding. I pressed my ear to the wall. No sound. But when I returned to bed, it rang again, this time by the window. Knock, knock. I pulled back the curtains, and outside was only darkness and fog. No one, no footprints, no other sound, except a soft laugh passing like a breeze. I closed the window tightly, shivered, and went back to bed, covering myself with the covers. The next morning, I asked my sister, Elizabeth, if she had heard anything. She just nodded, whispering, "Someone pulled my hair every night." I didn't dare tell anyone. My father became more and more absent-minded. He didn't talk much, just stared into space. I once saw him sitting for hours in the barn, as if he were listening to someone talking to him, but there was no one there. My mother began placing Bibles all over the house, burning incense and reciting prayers. But it seemed whatever was in the house didn't care about prayers. That night, while we were having dinner, all the chairs shook as if someone was grabbing them and pulling them. Glasses fell and broke. My sister screamed, and then a voice rang out from the middle of the room. "I told you I was here." We looked at each other, our faces pale. No one dared to say a word. I don't know what we've accidentally angered, but I do know one thing. It doesn't want to leave. I lost count of the number of sleepless nights I had. Every little sound now felt like a knife cutting into my nerves. That night, I decided not to sleep. I sat by the window, holding the oil lamp and the old Bible my mother had left in the room. The wind blew gently, and the sky was strangely quiet. No insects, no owls, just dead silence. And then it began. At first, it was just a whisper, very soft. I couldn't hear it, but it wasn't out there. It was in the room. I turned around. No one was there. But the whisper started again, this time right behind me. I turned the lamp back. It was empty. But the air in the room was noticeably colder, as if someone had opened the gates of hell. Suddenly, an invisible force pulled me out of my chair. I fell to the floor, my back hitting the edge of the bed. Before I could get up, something grabbed my hair and pulled me back. I screamed, but my throat felt choked. I struggled desperately, my hands groping in the darkness. Everything was spinning. Then, suddenly, it stopped. I jumped up, gasping. The oil lamp was still burning. The room was the same, but I knew I was no longer alone. And then I saw it. A white figure stood in the corner of the room, silent, blurred like mist. I thought I was seeing things, but then it came closer. The face, nothing but a dark void. No eyes, no nose, just a void, and a mouth wide open, laughing silently. I screamed, ran out of the room, down the stairs, my head hitting the railing until it bled. My parents jumped up, the torches blaring. I held my head, gasping for breath, and could only repeat. It was in the room. It stood there, watching me. It pulled me. My mother knelt down beside me, holding me. She was shaking too. My father was silent, his face as pale as death. And for the first time, he admitted, "It's not just a ghost, it's a curse." After that night, everything fell apart. I was no longer myself. I walked around the house like a shadow, living in fear, startled by the sound of my own footsteps. My sister Elizabeth cried every night. My mother kept a rosary in her hands, praying until her voice was hoarse. And my father, he began to get strangely sick. Within a few days, my father became emaciated. He often had severe headaches. His face was purple. His eyes were dull. We called a doctor, but he shook his head. "I've never seen anything like it. It's not a common illness." And then there were the bruises. Every morning my father woke up with bruises on his neck and chest, as if someone had strangled him during the night. We moved him to another room, but the first night he screamed, saying that someone had covered his mouth, pressed on his chest until he couldn't breathe. I ran over, turned on the light, and saw him being lifted off the bed, an invisible hand around his neck. I rushed forward, but when I touched him, everything stopped. He fell back onto the mattress, coughing, staring at the ceiling as if he had just seen something that did not belong to this world. He whispered, his voice almost broken. "It doesn't just want to scare me. It wants to kill me." My mother fainted on the spot. From that day on, I began to hear voices in the house, no longer whispering, but speaking clearly. We couldn't see anyone, but the voices echoed in the middle of the room, as if an invisible person was walking, watching, and laughing at us. That voice, female, old, vicious. It called out each person in the house by name, telling them secret things that no one knew about. It leaned close to my ear once as I dozed off and whispered, "I'll start with him. Then it's your turn." I slammed the door shut, shaking like a leaf. The door opened by itself. I had nowhere to hide. I knew that if I stayed, I would go mad. But But there was something that scared me more than madness: the truth. And then, one night, it came, no longer hidden. I was sitting at the old dining table alone, in the flickering light of a kerosene lamp. My father was bedridden. My mother had barely eaten. The house was empty, except for me and it. Suddenly, the lamp went out. I heard bare feet on the wooden floor. Slow, steady, heavy. I didn't cry out. I didn't hide. I just sat there and said, "Who are you?" Silence. Then, a hoarse female voice said, right behind me, "I am the one your family forgot." I turned around. No one was there. But the voice continued to echo through the house, as if it were echoing off the walls themselves. "I am Kate Batts. I lived and died with hatred, and now I am alive again, to punish." Kate Batts. That name made me shiver. She had lived nearby, shunned by the villagers for being a witch. It was said that my father had bought a plot of land from her husband, for a pittance. Some said he had cheated. Others said she had cursed him before she died. And now she had come back. I swore I would kill him. I would make your family watch his last breath, his last plea, and then it would be your turn. Her laughter echoed through the house, drawn out, distorted like the sound of a broken record. I couldn't move. The table shook, the cupboards collapsed. On the wall, written in blood, appeared, "I will return." I screamed, fell to my knees, and begged for forgiveness. But her voice only answered quietly, "There is nothing left to forgive. There is only to pay." My father died not long after that. He died in his sleep, but not peacefully. Before that night, I heard him whisper, almost in a dream, "My child, he's standing right here. He's looking at me." The next morning, he never woke up again. But the most terrifying thing was not his death. It was the look on his face as he passed away. His mouth wide open as if he were screaming. His eyes wide open, his hands clutching the blanket, as if he were trying to cling to his last life. At my father's funeral, the wind suddenly rose, fierce as a storm. The trees swayed, the sky darkened, though there was not a cloud in sight. The villagers looked at each other in fear. They knew Kate Batts had kept her promise. After the funeral, everything quieted down. No more whispers, no more creepy laughter. The house was quiet again, but not a quiet of peace. But the eerie silence after the storm, when the living are left alone with the darkness. My mother was seriously ill and died soon after. My sister was sent far away, never to return to this place again. As for me, I stayed, not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't leave. This house kept me, or rather, she wouldn't let me leave. I heard footsteps every night, the creaking of chairs in the living room, doors opening by themselves, cold wind blowing through even though no windows were cracked. And sometimes I saw a white figure in the corner of the room, doing nothing, just standing and watching. Many years have passed. People say that the Bell Witch disappeared, but I know she only retreated temporarily, because I still hear her voice every night. As long as the Bell blood exists, I will return. And if you're listening to this story, if you've ever felt a chill down your spine while driving through Tennessee, if you've ever had a dream about a faceless woman standing at the foot of your bed, then maybe she's coming for you.